Hi everyone and welcome to my December book haul. Let's not talk about the fact that it's the final month of the year. That could be considered a good or a bad thing at this point, but it's definitely a surreal thing. But there's one thing that always brings me joy, and that's talking about books. So I'm super excited to share with you all the books that I have recently acquired and I'm super excited to read in the coming months. Before we get into the books however, I would like to give a shout out and a massive thank you to the sponsor of today's video, who are Shoptiger. So if you're not familiar with Shoptiger, then you really should be. I have worked with them before in the past and I'm always so pleased to incorporate them into a haul because they are exactly what you need if you want to save money on your book shopping and potentially some of your Christmas gift buying. Because Shoptiger is a browser add-on which allows you to save items for later and be alerted to discounts. For myself, recently I actually managed to get this little book here for 50% off, and I'll be telling you more about what this book is in the actual haul, but I just think this is like an excellent example of something that I was toying with buying. Wasn't sure I wanted to spend full price on because it is quite short, and then got that lovely little alert and decided, hey, why not? I may have already managed to use it to save some money on my Christmas gift shopping, but in case those people are watching, I'm not going to show you what those things were. Just believe me that it has come in handy. So once you've installed Shoptiger, you can set it up to alert you to discounts both via email and through push notifications on your phone, so it makes sense to download the app as well, as I have done. And you can save items from virtually any online shop and request to hear about discounts, whether it be any discount or a discount of 25% or even 50%, and wait until you get that alert. You can also set yourself up wish lists where you can put all the things you're interested in one place. So it's great in that respect, but it's also great if you're just interested in saving all of your books in one place, regardless of what shop you're thinking of buying them from, or board games but from multiple different retailers in case one discounts it and another doesn't. These are some of the ways I use the platform, at least. Then when you are going to check out, even if the item you're buying isn't specifically discounted, Shoptiger does scan the whole of the internet using its magical technological powers to find your discount code, which is another one that I've had great success with. I recently managed to get my mum a discount code on her Habitat order because she needed some home pieces, and we used Shoptiger and we got some discounts, so it was fantastic. Plus, Shoptiger now offer cashback, so if you're shopping with certain online retailers, you'll even get some money back from your purchase that will go into your bank account. So basically, all in all, there's no downsides, to be perfectly honest, and therefore it's such an easy one to recommend wholeheartedly. But if you are interested and haven't already downloaded Shoptiger, then it will be linked in the description box down below. You can click that link, install it on your browser and your mobile, and save some money. And with that said, let's get into the books. So I have, as you can probably tell, my books here on my lovely book trolley. I actually bought a book trolley over a year ago. It was quite a while ago now, and loved using it in London. Could it have been 2 years ago? Possibly. But when I moved back up to Edinburgh, my mum commandeered my book trolley. I say that as if I had no choice in the matter. I very happily gave her the book trolley to use as an art trolley, which worked really well. She's been storing art supplies in it. But recently I've been really missing having a book trolley. There's something both so aesthetically pleasing about the book trolley, but also quite handy, and I'm currently storing like my TBRs for different videos and other books I might want to show you in coming videos on it, as well as all the books that I have recently been sent or have bought myself or been gifted, and therefore wanted to include in this haul. So that is what our top row is here, and I am going to show you what's inside. If you are interested in this book trolley in particular, I'll link it down below. It was just, to be honest, the cheapest one I could find. So yeah. Now let's have a look at the books. So starting off with the books I bought myself, as I already mentioned, this book I managed to get for a whopping 50% off, which was incredible because it's one I've had my eye on for a little while, but it's obviously quite short. It's a novella. It's going to be incredibly fast to read because it is a romance novel, and those for me are some of the fastest books to read. So the fact that it was a short novella made me want to hang around for a sale, if that makes sense, and I managed to, and I'm super glad that I did, and now I have it in my hands. This is A Little Like Mischief by Cat Sebastian. This is a Regency romance novel, however it is about two women who fall in love in the Regency era. It's about a lady's companion and a lady's maid, and they're both currently in the service of the same employer, both with their own backgrounds, their own stories, their own heartbreaks, but they find themselves drawn to one another, and I'm expecting it to be quite a lightly little book, funnily enough, a little light Mischief, because it is so short, but hopefully really cheerful and wonderful, and I'm always looking for more LGBT rep in my historical romances. It's something I like to keep an eye out for, so I'm super excited about this, and I am actually planning on reading it in the coming days. So we have that one. I then picked myself up a absolute bargain of a book in a second-hand shop, and that is Twelfth Night by William Shakespeare. This cost me the grand old price of £1.50. Yes, £1.50, and you may know that I am trying to collect up these editions, so it was such a great find. It's definitely been read, it's got a broken spine, but it's in otherwise pretty good condition, and it just seemed quite coincidental that recently I've been talking about these on my channel, and then I spotted one in a second-hand shop, so super excited to have this. Have not read Twelfth Night before, and this is obviously an excellent opportunity now that I own my own copy. I believe this one's a comedy? Yes, a romantic comedy of mistaken identity. So excited about owning this and being able to read this. Whilst we continue on the theme of bargains, I then picked myself up a book in the Verso holiday sale. So every year Verso discount every single book that they publish during a period in November and December. I'm hoping the sale is still currently on, and I will link Verso's website down below for you to check out, because it's absolutely incredible. This year they're offering 40% off every single book that they publish, and with each physical book you buy you get a free ebook, or you can obviously just buy the ebook by itself. But Verso publish the most incredible range of non-fiction. They do have a little bit of fiction as well, but they're particularly well known for their non-fiction, and I have read some of my favourite non-fiction books from their catalogue. This is one that I picked up purely on a whim. It had been featured on one of Verso's pages recently to do with certain social issues that might be of interest to people, and I just thought it sounded so interesting. It's not a topic at all I know much about. As you might be able to see, it is called A Kick in the Stomach: Women, Slavery and Resistance by Stella Dadsey. Now this is about women in the West Indies. In fact, I'll just read you the first couple of sentences of the blurb. Enslaved West Indie women had few opportunities to record their stories for posterity. In this riveting work of historical reclamation, Stella Dadsey recovers the lives of women who played a vital role in developing a culture of slave resistance across the Caribbean. So this is not something I know much about at all. I say much about, I don't know anything about this specific instance of revolution, and the release of this book just made me want to engage with it. I always want to sort of widen the non-fiction I read, but it's not always easy to know where to start or where to go because there's so much of it out there, so I decided to go for this one on Verso, pick it up on something I don't know anything about, and hopefully we'll learn something from it. It's also not terribly long, which is great if you're a little bit intimidated by new topics. I believe the last book I bought myself is then The Vanishing Act of Esme Lennox by Maggie O'Farrell. So I actually picked this up because it was recommended to me in the comments of my last book haul, I believe. In that book haul I hauled a non-fiction book about the treatment of women's health throughout the sort of 1718, early 1900s I believe it was, Mad, Bad and Sad, and I'm really intrigued and excited about that non-fiction title. But jumping off that, I was recommended this book by a subscriber, which is all about a woman who was sent to an institution in the early 1900s by her family, and it's now a few decades later I believe. So originally we start off in the 1930s, which is when this happens to this woman in Edinburgh, and then a few decades later we follow her niece who is learning why this happened to her aunt. Her aunt is now being released, I believe, from the institution, and she's learning about what horrible things led to her being incarcerated there, and I think it sounds so interesting. I've never actually read any Maggie O'Farrell before, but I know her books come so highly recommended. I mean, she most recently just won both the Books Are My Bag Reader's Choice Award and the Women's Prize for Fiction Award for Hamnet, so I know she's loved, and I have had recommendations of her book from people I very much trust, but this in particular just drew me in with the plot. This is something I'm definitely very interested in and really like reading fiction about. So thank you to the person who brought this book to my attention, because I didn't know about it before then, and I also love that it's set in Edinburgh. That should be really interesting in itself, since that's where I'm from and that's where I live, and I always love reading about places that I'm familiar. I take that statement back, I did buy another book. This I bought myself. I forgot I bought this. This is actually the most recent book that I picked up, and it's The Philosopher Queens, edited by Rebecca Buxton and Lisa Whiting. This is another non-fiction title, and this one is all about women in the discipline of philosophy throughout the centuries. So female philosophers, women working in the sort of philosophical sphere, and all the many things that encompasses. And this one's quite a recent release. I actually asked on Instagram if anyone knew of any books about women in philosophy, because I felt like I hadn't read much about that. And this was the one that got recommended multiple times. To be honest, there was no other recommendations, nobody knew of any others, but loads and loads of people recommended this, so I had to. It seemed to come very highly recommended and it seemed to fulfill exactly what I was looking for. It goes all the way back to antiquity. We have women like Hypatia, which is amazing, who I do know a little bit about, but then there are other women here who I don't really know anything about. So we've got Edith Stein, not really familiar with her, and each woman has a little coloured illustration as well. So I'm really intrigued to see who's included in here and what I learn from it. But if you do have more book recommendations about women in philosophy throughout history and sort of philosophical schools of thought and women's participation in them throughout the centuries, love, love, love your recommendations. That would be amazing. Now we're definitely at the end of books I bought myself, so I will now show you the books that were very, very kindly sent to me as gifts. So first up, I was sent these two incredibly kind gifts from Rhiannon, which I'm so excited about. So this one is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. You have probably all heard of this book at this point because it is such a booktube darling, and I've been interested in reading it for years because it comes so highly recommended, but I've just never gone around to picking up myself. It's the first book in the Grishaverse. It's something, a world, it's a magical world that people talk about all the time, and I feel like I have no idea what's going on and would love to at least know whether I'm possibly going to love it as much as everybody else. So thank you so much, Rhiannon, for sending me a copy, because now I can finally find out what all the fuss is about. Rhiannon then also sent me, which was such a surprise, Lovely War by Julie Berry. And to be honest, I don't know why this book wasn't on my wish list or my radar, because this is inspired by Greek mythology. It is a blend of two different historical periods, in fact, although I suppose Greek mythology is not necessarily a historical period, but you know what I mean, because it's set during the First and Second World War, but I believe it's narrated or controlled by Aphrodite, like the events of the love story are under the control of Aphrodite despite it being set in the early 20th century, which just sounds so intriguing. And I really love the idea of bringing the ancient Greek gods into a more contemporary setting, still historical in our terms, but certainly more contemporary than we associate these gods with. So thank you so much, Rhiannon, for sending me this one. It sounds incredible. We then have two books that were sent to me by the incredibly kind and generous Christina. Honestly, like, I am so overwhelmed by your guys' generosity. It is so thoughtful, and the fact that you get so much joy out of the content I create means so much to me. And in fact, on the theme of Greek mythology and women in Greek mythology, we actually have a non-fiction title, which I am so excited about. I've been so excited about this book ever since I heard it was coming out, and that is Antigone Rising by Helen Morales, The Subversive Power of the Ancient Myths. So Helen Morales is a classical scholar. She's someone I've actually read quite a lot by over the years in different areas of study. She's somebody I've read academic articles and books by when I've been studying very different things, and I always really appreciate her insight. I think she's a really excellent, accessible scholar, and she's got some fantastic books out there. And this particularly is about the importance and the meaning and the potential meaning that women from ancient Greek mythology can hold to modern readers. And I think that just sounds like the book I wanted to exist, the book I would have loved to write, but I'm so pleased that Helen Morales did, because I know she's going to have done a spectacular job. What I believe specifically Helen Morales does is look at the ancient Greek myths about women and look at them from a modern feminist perspective and look at their potential meaning for modern day women, and I just love that whole concept, so I'm super excited about this. We then have a fiction book, which is The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher. I love T. Kingfisher so much. I have read a few of their books now, 3 or 4, and I have loved all of them. They have been writing a few more horror stories recently, which seems so suited to their writing style based on what I've read in the past. Even when it's not been horror, they do creepy well. And this is one of their most recent ones, so I'm super excited to have this. And I just have to read you the blurb of this one. It says, "Pray that they are hungry." Kara finds the words in the mysterious bunker that she's discovered behind a hole in the wall of her uncle's house. Freshly divorced and living back at home, Kara now becomes obsessed with these cryptic words and starts exploring this peculiar area, only to discover that it holds portals to countless alternate realities. But these places are haunted by creatures that seem to hear thoughts, and the more one fears them, the stronger they become. I know Halloween's over, but I am still in a creepy mood, so bring this on. Again, thank you so much to Rhiannon and Christina for those. They were just like the most perfect choices. I then have some books that were sent to me by the publishers for review. So again, let's continue on the sort of Greek mythological theme, because I was sent this proof copy of Ariadne, not that you can tell from the front there, it's along the spine here, by Jennifer Saint, and this is published by Wildfire, or is going to be published by Wildfire in April of 2021. It's obviously about Ariadne, who is a character from ancient Greek mythology. So in the vein of books like Circe or the Penelopiad, this retells her story in a fictional narrative but based very heavily in the original Greek myths. And I'm so excited to see a retelling of Ariadne. I haven't come across one before, and Ariadne is a character from Greek mythology that I have so much both sympathy and respect for. Like, I think she is an incredible character with an incredible story, and I'd love to hear someone bring that to life and give her a voice, so I'm really hoping I love this one. Ariadne, if you don't know, was the daughter of King Minos, and she helped Theseus to escape and defeat the Minotaur, but then, well, I don't want to give any spoilers. A lot more happens in that, but that's like sort of where she initially starts off in mythology, and I'm really excited that there is now a retelling of her story coming out. We then have another April 2021 release. Sorry that these are a little while away, but hopefully I'll get to read them closer to the time and give you reviews ahead of their release. This is, again, you can't tell from the front cover there, but this is The Summer Job by Lizzie Dent. It is published by Penguin Viking, and it is a contemporary novel which follows Birdie Finch, who somehow ends up at a luxury Highland Castle hotel under the assumed identity of her best friend that is a wine taster. Now, she is not a wine taster, she has no expertise in wines, but somehow for some reason has to impersonate her friend in order to maintain this ruse. Don't know what the context for that is at all, but it sounds like a lot of fun, and I do love my books when they're set in the Scottish Highlands. I think it's such a fun setting with so much potential, so I'm intrigued by this one. Now, I swear I have some books that are coming out before April 2021, but I do actually have 2 more proofs here from that month, so I'm going to quickly get those out of the way. The first is The Imposter by Anna Wharton. This is a thriller. I feel like the title and even the proof cover gives that away, but just so you know, it's a thriller. And this is about Chloe, who lives a quiet life, working as a newspaper archivist and taking care of her nan. She's happy simply to read about the lives of others as she files away the news clippings from the safety of her desk. But there's one story that she can't stop thinking about. The case of Aggie Kyle, a girl Chloe's age who went missing as a child. A girl whose parents never gave up hope. When Chloe is left on the brink of homelessness, she takes a desperate step, answering an ad to be a lodger in the missing girl's family home. It could be the perfect opportunity to get closer to the story she's read so much about. But it's not long until she realises this couple aren't all they seem from the outside. That sounds so good. I'm super excited about that one. And then we have Sister Song by Lucy Holland, which has the most beautiful cover. I don't know what the final cover looks like, but if it's anything like this proof, it is going to be stunning because wowzers. Absolutely gorgeous. I take it back, I do know what the final cover looks like because it's here on the back, and I believe it's going to be blue but with the same illustration. So that's awesome. And this is about King Cador's children who have inherited a war-torn land abandoned by the Romans. Riva can cure others but can't heal her own scars. Cain battles to be seen as the king's son, although born a daughter. Sini dreams of love and longs for adventure. All 3 will become entangled in a web of treachery and heartbreak and must fight to forge their own paths in a story that will shape the destiny of Britain. A classic tale with modern sensibilities, this retelling of an ancient British folk ballad will tug at the heartstrings and stir the imagination. If you loved Madeline Miller's Circe, you'll love this. I am not familiar with this ballad at all. Let me know if you know which one it's referring to, but I'll definitely be looking that up regardless because it sounds so intriguing and this book sounds so fabulous, so really looking forward to this. We then have an upcoming Mantle release which is coming out in January 2021, which isn't actually that long as we've established, not far away at all, and that's People Like Her by Ellery Lloyd, another thriller. But not only is this a thriller, it's a thriller about an influencer and somebody who is obsessed with her, which sounds absolutely terrifying, so looking forward to reading that as much as you can be. We then have, last but not least, a book from Picador, which is already out, you don't need to worry or hang around too long for this. It's The War of the Poor by Eric Villard, and it's been translated from French, so first came out in French and was translated by Mark Polizzotti. It's set in 16th century Europe, and I believe it's based in real historical events because it's about a follower of Martin Luther who established the Protestant church. The blurb says that Eric Villard tells the story of one man whose terrible and novelesque life casts light on the times in which he lived, a moment when Europe was in flux and history was being written. As you can probably guess, I don't really know what I'm getting myself in for, but I'm interested enough by the blurb that I want to check it out. So those are all of the books that I have recently added to my TBR, and I'm super duper excited to get around to reading. I'd love to know your thoughts if you've read any of these or are interested in reading any of these. And before you go, don't forget to check out and download Shoptiger via the link in the description box down below. Honestly, it will save you so much money. And until next time, happy reading. I will see you all again soon. Bye everyone!